The gavel struck twice, demanding order. Judge Clarence Thomas sat high on his bench, his face completely unreadable. His voice, as cold as the marble behind him, cut through the quiet. "Representative Jasmine Crockett," he announced. "You have disobeyed this court's orders again and again. This body has the authority to fine you $500 million. A sudden hush fell over the room. Reporters stopped typing. $500 million. Even the lawyers looked at each other, not in surprise, but in disbelief. The amount was not just huge, it was a way to break her, not just a punishment. Jasmine remained perfectly still. She didn't flinch or make a sound. She slowly stood, her eyes fixed on the man who had just tried to end her career with a simple bang of his gavel. "Are you done?" she asked. A buzz filled the court. Someone gasped. Thomas leaned forward. "Excuse me," he said. "I said, are you done, sir? Because I am." She reached into her jacket and pulled out a single folder. It was thin, plain, with a yellow tab, and just one copy. She walked to the clerk, handing it over without any hurry, as if she were returning a book to the library. "Please add this to the record." The clerk blinked. What is this?" she asked. "Facts," Jasmine replied. "Sworn statements, tax papers, internal emails, all with dates." Judge Thomas's eyes narrowed. "Miss Crockett, Congresswoman," she corrected him. "Respectfully, those documents show you have financial ties to 3 of the 4 private groups that asked for this fine to be put on me." The room seemed to shake. A reporter dropped a tablet. A man in the audience stood up, then quickly sat back down as if he had been pushed. Thomas's face turned pale. That's ridiculous. It's simple math," she said. "Simple connections. You should have excused yourself from this case, but you didn't. And now we all understand why." His hand tightened around the gavel. "This is a dirty trick. You're trying to distract from the charges against you." "No," she said. "I'm showing this room what power looks like when it hides behind robes and quiet." Gasps turned into low talking. She kept going. "The public was not supposed to know that 3 months ago, you ate with important leaders from Wilcraft Holdings. That 2 weeks later a secret memo went around suggesting punishments specifically for me, and that the words used in that memo are the same as in your written opinion." Thomas slammed the gavel down. "Silence. The silence is over," she said. "You misused this courtroom. You turned it into a weapon. But you forgot something. I don't get scared easily." One of the court guards stepped forward. Another judge on the bench whispered something. Thomas shook his head. "This court will take a break." "No," she said. "This court will give answers." She turned to face the crowd. "If any of you in this room have felt like you've been told to be quiet and just accept things, then now is the time to pay attention. This is not about me. It's about what happens when someone won't bow to people who think they are untouchable." The audience was no longer quiet. The low talks became sounds of support. A man stood, then a woman. A whole row of people rose without saying a word. Jasmine turned back to the bench. "You want to fine me $500 million to teach me a lesson? Here is my lesson. Never walk into a room where the rules are made to silence you. Rewrite the rules." Thomas tried to speak, but the clerk stood up, the same clerk who had taken her folder. "Your Honor, I have looked at the documents." Thomas stared. The clerk looked very nervous. "They seem real, and they are very detailed. These claims, they can't be ignored." Another judge leaned over. A third picked up the phone on the bench. Thomas's face showed emotion for the first time. "This court will take a 5-minute break." He tried to leave, but Jasmine spoke again. "Before you go, one more thing." He froze. "That folder, it has already been sent to the Ethics Committee, 3 government investigation groups, and every major news organization." The door behind the bench opened quietly. Thomas didn't move. "You thought I came here to defend myself," she said. "But I came here to defend the people you have tried to silence with your position. I came here for every voice you tried to drown with your power." He turned to go. The audience was now buzzing, but not with gossip, with understanding. For the first time in that courtroom, the robes were not the most important thing. The truth was, Jasmine sat back down, calm and collected. Another official stepped up behind the bench and whispered to the remaining judges. They whispered back. One leaned forward. "Representative Crockett, we will come back in 15 minutes after looking at the material." She nodded. Thomas did not return. The flashes of cameras outside the courthouse were blinding. By the time the break was over, the building was surrounded. Reporters, people protesting, and even some members of Congress had shown up, quietly using a side entrance just to watch. Inside, Jasmine Crockett stood by a window on the second floor. She wasn't pacing. She was drinking water, one hand in her pocket, watching the crowd grow like a storm. "How many cameras are out there now?" her staffer whispered. "It doesn't matter," she said. "This is not about the cameras. It's about what goes on the record." Back in the courtroom, two judges returned to the bench. Clarence Thomas did not. His seat was empty, the gavel still. A different, older judge, looking clearly uncomfortable, tapped the microphone. "We are starting again. The court knows that new evidence has been brought into the record by Representative Jasmine Crockett. This court has looked at that evidence." He paused. "Why have questions?" You could feel the change in the room. Not chaos or panic, but a shift. Suddenly, Jasmine Crockett was no longer the one on trial. The feeling in the room moved toward her. A prosecutor spoke next, looking unwilling. Because of the contents of the material, which seemed to show a big conflict of interest, by Judge Clarence Thomas, we suggest this court stop enforcing the financial fine until an independent review is done. Gasps came again, but not from Jasmine. She simply nodded once, as if she had expected this. "Thank you, Your Honor," she said calmly. "I trust the process when it's fair." The prosecutor tried to get his footing back. "That does not mean the claims against you." She cut in. "The claims against me were written using words from lobbying groups connected to businesses Judge Thomas has money in. That is not a guess. That is a clear connection." One of the younger judges leaned toward the mic. "Would you be willing to give full digital access to the information you already sent? You will find a secure link in the court's inbox." There was a moment of quiet. Then the clerk, the same one from before, stepped forward again. "I have accessed the link. All materials are confirmed. The times on them are correct." She sat down, but Jasmine remained standing. "Let the record show I didn't come here for sympathy. I came here because power that is not checked becomes a sickness. You don't cure a sickness by whispering about it. You show it the light." There it was again. The change in the way the audience sat. Not applause or noise, just focus. The court paused. The judge looked down, thinking about every word. The court will now fully stop the previous ruling, waiting for the result of this investigation. And then it happened. The doors opened, cameras clicked. Clarence Thomas came back in, but something was different. He didn't go to his seat. He walked straight to the table for lawyers. No robe, just a dark suit, his shoulders tight. The judge looked confused. "Justice Thomas, this court is already in session." "I know," he said. He turned to Jasmine. For the first time, the country saw them standing on the same level, eye to eye. No higher seat, no echo chamber. "This is a misunderstanding," he said. She didn't blink. "It's a system," she said. "And it's not made for people like me to fight back, but I fought." He opened his mouth, then closed it. "You think this is going to help your reputation," he said, more quietly. "You just declared war on a sitting justice." She stepped forward. "No, I reminded a justice that power is borrowed, and the people are the owners." The audience stood again, not planned, but all together, as if they all understood that something bigger than law was happening, something like justice. Thomas turned to leave again. This time, no one stopped him. He walked past the reporters, past the court officers, past the cameras that once loved him. Jasmine sat down. No celebration, no smile, just a slow breath. The judge tapped the microphone once more. "The court will officially dismiss the $500 million penalty for now, waiting for a full check of judicial conflicts." She nodded, she understood. One of the cameras zoomed in close. Her fingers, calm and still, rested on the table. No shaking, no twitching, because she had not come for a show. She came for a change. Outside, the crowd had grown to hundreds. The chants were not loud, they were united.
"Power, truth, people. Power, truth, people."
And Jasmine walked out through the main doors, not guarded or protected, but followed, not by bodyguards, but by a movement. CNN was the first to report it with a breaking news banner. A full-screen video clip had the Crockett files. By the time MSNBC picked it up, the file Jasmine had given the court was already on a public website, uploaded by an unknown person, but traced digitally back to a secure government network. Then it spread like a fire. Television, Twitter threads, YouTube, Telegram. The headlines were not careful anymore. Did Justice Thomas break recusal laws? The $500 million fine that backfired. Crockett versus the court, and she's winning. Jasmine had not posted a single word on social media. Her staff had not scheduled any interviews, but the press came anyway. A wall of microphones waited outside her office at 9:00 a.m. sharp. She walked past them with the same calm she had in court. No umbrella, no sunglasses, no group of people with her, just her bag, her phone, and one line to the nearest reporter: "Let the process finish before you start making movies about it." Then she walked in and shut the door. Across town, it was a mess. The Supreme Court's press office was working overtime. Clerks were rushing to review old papers. Public relations teams were giving out general, no comment statements. A leaked memo showed in a panic. "We completely underestimated her. This was not a defense. This was a plan." Justice Thomas, meanwhile, was impossible to reach. Sources said he had cancelled his public events, refused all calls, and gone silent even with people in his own office. A request for a meeting from the Chief Justice was supposedly not answered. The Ethics Committee, however, did not wait. They sent a public letter. "We are starting a formal investigation into Justice Clarence Thomas regarding possible financial conflicts of interest and improper judicial behavior. The Crockett materials will be central to this investigation." That line was repeated everywhere. The Crockett materials. Television hosts whispered it like it was holy, and in the White House press briefing, the press secretary, usually very careful with her words, did not deny anything. "We believe in accountability, no matter where it leads." That afternoon, Jasmine walked into a private meeting about roads and bridges. She was not scheduled to speak, but when she came in, every head turned. One Republican assistant muttered quietly, "That's her. That's the one who took out Thomas." And Jasmine, without stopping, turned just a little and said, "I didn't take him out. He walked into his own trouble. I just brought the proof." The room froze. Then she sat. Business started again, but nothing was normal anymore. Not in Congress, not in the courts, not in public. Because all over the country, Americans were watching and seeing something they almost never saw. A black woman standing in front of the highest legal authority in the country and not backing down, and winning. Television shows now showed her entire courtroom talk in slow motion, pausing on her lines, studying her tone. She did not yell, she was careful. She did not accuse, she showed proof. She did not defend herself, she revealed. Even some conservative people were reluctantly impressed. One Fox News host started their show with, "You don't have to like her politics, but you have to respect how she handled this." Thomas's supporters were falling apart. One of his senior legal advisors posted a tweet, then deleted it. "We warned him. That fine was never going to last, but the damage was done." Funny pictures and videos exploded online, side-by-side clips of Thomas hitting a gavel next to Jasmine calmly passing a folder. The caption read, "Noise versus proof." A popular TikTok video used the sound from the courtroom over video of a chess game. It ended with Jasmine sliding her queen across the board. Views, 12.8 million and growing. But Jasmine was still not celebrating. Back in her office, she told her staff, "We don't celebrate on ruins. We keep moving forward." "What about interviews?" someone asked later. "The story is still going," she said, because she knew this was not just about Thomas. This was about setting a new example. A sitting Congresswoman had just revealed a Supreme Court justice and did it in public, in real time, without hesitation. Now came the hard part, proving the court was not above the rules it was built to protect. The next morning, a new letter came from the House Judiciary Committee. They were starting their own investigation, not into Jasmine, but into the financial ties between judicial decisions and private companies. They called it the Crockett Inquiry. 3 words that made Thomas's defenders go silent. And Jasmine, she stepped up to the podium for her first press event since court. "I didn't pick this fight, but I finished it," she said. "Because when you sit in power and punish people for standing up for the truth, you stop being a judge and start being a threat." The crowd cheered. The video got 4 million views in 3 hours. And behind the scenes in the quiet halls of the court, Justice Clarence Thomas made a call to his private lawyer. Because for the first time in his career, he was not behind the bench. He was under it. The legal order for documents arrived before sunrise. Stamped, sealed, and personally delivered to the offices of 3 members of the Judicial Oversight Board, 4 lobbying groups, and 1 private financial company registered in the Caymans. The title, Federal Judiciary Inquiry, Phase 1. Thomas had not been officially named yet, but everyone knew, especially the people closest to him. That morning, 2 of his long-time assistants cleaned out their desks. One intern left a note behind, has stopped listening to the law a long time ago. Inside Jasmine's office, there was no celebration, just a stack of printed messages, all marked urgent. Lawyers who work on ethics, unknown whistleblowers, retired clerks, all saying the same thing. It's not just him. Check the decisions from 2020. Follow the money through government bonds. Jasmine leaned back in her chair, her hands together. They're not sending this because they trust me, she said. They're sending this because I proved I am not afraid to open the door. You want to go through with it? Her chief of staff asked. No, she said. I want to blow the whole thing wide open. But with that power came risk. That afternoon, a brown envelope arrived in her secure inbox. It had no name or address, just a single encrypted file attached. The subject line said, "Private discussion offer secret." Inside was a deal. If you publicly take back your request for Thomas's financial records to be unsealed, our legal partners will suggest the full dismissal of the fine. In addition, a donation of $10 million will be given to projects in your district. Jasmine read it once, then again, then sent it to the Office of Congressional Ethics. No comment, no post on social media, no leaking it, just following the rules. But that silence sent a louder message than any viral video, because within hours, the same law firm that sent the message denied being involved, then removed the donor information on their website, then went completely offline. Back in court, the walls were cracking. A new judge was temporarily put on the bench while the Thomas investigation went on. They ordered a temporary stop on any financial punishments related to Crockett's case, and then asked for signed statements from the original people who sued. Only one responded, and he changed his story. A former board member of the lobbying group that had pushed for Jasmine's fine submitted a statement under penalty of perjury. "We were told Crockett was a danger to the way things are." That her voice had to be stopped before the next budget session. The memo came from a higher place. It didn't say names, but it was enough. The Department of Justice sent its first official letter of interest in the case. And with that, the feeling changed. Suddenly, senators who had been quiet were tweeting vague statements about judicial integrity. Donors started stopping contributions to anyone connected to Thomas's past decisions. And for the first time, a Supreme Court decision was being questioned in real time, not by experts on TV but by sitting politicians. Meanwhile, Jasmine walked into a university hall full of 700 students and said one thing. Power protects itself until someone walks in and says, "Not today, that's what I did, and I'm not finished." She was not just talking. 2 days later, she filed a formal request to get sealed communication records between Thomas and 3 private company leaders known to be connected to cases about energy laws. Her opponents in Congress screamed that it was wrong. "This is personal revenge. She's attacking the justice system." But the public was not buying it. Polls showed her popularity was rising quickly in every big city. Even independent voters were changing their minds. A new poll showed 72% of voters believed Crockett had exposed something corrupt in the court system, and yet the pressure grew. That night, someone left an envelope outside her home. No name, no address, just 5 words written on a ripped paper napkin. "Keep going. We got you." Inside was a flash drive. It was encrypted. When it was unlocked, it showed a timeline, dates, money transfers, and travel records connecting Thomas to a luxury real estate builder whose company had just won a disputed zoning case. On page 63, Thomas had written the opinion. The connections were not just being made now. They were drawing a target, and Jasmine Crockett was not running. She scheduled a press conference, just 10 minutes long, no questions, no big production. She walked up to the microphone in a navy suit, pulled out the napkin and held it up. "I didn't come for the court," she said. "I came for clarity. And every time they try to drown us with numbers, we'll come back with names. This is not a headline. This is a cleaning. I am not asking the system to fix itself anymore. I'm telling it your time is up. By the time she left the podium, Twitter had exploded. Napkin note. Crockett cleanup. Your time is up. Television news anchors gave up on their scripts. One expert finally admitted, "We thought she was just going to defend herself. We didn't know she was building a case for something much bigger." And back in his office, Clarence Thomas was told directly, "You may want to think about retiring early before this becomes something permanent." The statement came out at 6:00 a.m. It was typed in a classic font and posted to the official website of the Supreme Court. No cameras, no press conference, just this: Justice Clarence Thomas recognizes the growing public worry about the financial claims connected to past judicial decisions. He says he is innocent and states that Representative Jasmine Crockett has acted with political goals. However, to keep the public's trust in the court, he will temporarily step back from all active rulings until the Ethics Committee finishes its review. It did not say he was resigning. It did not say he was guilty, but it said one thing louder than anything else. He had given up. For the first time in over 30 years on the bench, Clarence Thomas had taken a step back, and it was not his choice. It was a planned retreat, an attempt to control the damage, and the media was not buying the wording. Temporarily, CNN asked. Why now? MSNBC demanded. Because Crockett put his back against the wall, HuffPost wrote. By noon, congressional hearings were announced. Not just for judicial reform, but a full investigation called Accountability in the Highest Court, Financial Ethics and Judicial Power. Jasmine Crockett was listed as a main witness. One senator tried to complain, saying she was too emotionally involved, but a reply from a senior colleague shut it down. She's not emotional, she's effective. Inside Jasmine's office, the energy had shifted. It was no longer about defending, it was about taking action. What do you want to start with? Her chief lawyer asked. The pattern, she said. You mean the donations? No, she said. The lack of care. Show how long they have been counting on silence. Because this was not just about one fine, or even one judge. It was about the entire system.